I feel like we need to give this our full attention. The music is in full swing. I hope it is for you guys. Is it still sharing
Oh, it
the
is,
music?
yes.
Okay,
It's
good.
Without further ado, but with closer ado,
Yeah. Who's gonna start?
who stopped last time?
I don't remember. Does it matter? Do you want to go? You want to go?
Moi?
You.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh wait,
All
before
right.
we do it though, should we recap what's happened so far?
Sure.
Oh goodness.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
What? I don't know. I don't know what's happened. Can you recap what's happened so far? I forgot.
There's been a proposition of creating another creature.
Yes.
I remember
that.
And,
Then he destroyed it.
he destroyed it.
Yeah, Victor
Then he got
destroyed the
framed for
creature.
murder.
Yeah, then he got
Yes.
framed for murder.
Then
Yep.
he found out it
Paid
was
him
his
off.
best friend.
His best friend was murdered by the creature who ordered him to make him a bride, but, you know, then he was like, no, and he was like, okay, well, I'll murder. And then framed because body parts were found. Murdered. Then what?
Did Elizabeth and them
back home.
did he get married at the end of that?
Not quite yet, I don't think.
They're in the process of getting things set up, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's just super like uber paranoid because the creature's just like, I will see you on your wedding night.
Yes, yeah.
Stalker. Stalker. Stalker alert.
He promises to be there on his wedding night, which could only mean that certain doom is upon Victor and Elizabeth.
What
Cousin.
countenance?
Cousin love and countenances.
Okay, so we gotta find out what word it is we're gonna count this time.
Well, countenance, of course.
It's probably
A
Oh, we're gonna
person's
be counting
face
it,
or
but it's
facial
gonna be-
expression. His facial expression, his countenance.
Alright. Let's, Alright. Start it off, Fudge.
I'm starting. All right. Chapter 6. It was 8 o'clock when we landed. We walked for a short time on the shore, enjoying the transitory light, and then retired to the inn, and contemplated the lovely scene of waters, woods, and mountain, obscured in darkness, yet still displaying their black outlines. The wind, which had fallen in the south, now rose with great violence in the west. The moon had reached her summit in the heavens and was beginning to descend. The clouds swept across it, swifter than the flight of the vulture, and dimmed her rays, while the lake reflected the scene of the busy heavens, rendered still busier by the restless waves that were beginning to rise. Suddenly, a heavy storm of rain descended.
Is it me?
I think so, and then I go after you.
Okay.
We're still doing the rules if it's we do over 5 lines. Like if something's super short, we just go to the next paragraph.
I know,
Right?
I just forget the
Yes.
order.
Okay.
I had been calm, is that where we're starting?
Yes.
Okay. I had been calm during the day. But so soon as night obscured the shape of objects, 1,000 fears arose in my mind. I was anxious and watchful, while my right hand grasped a pistol, which was hidden in my bosom. Every sound terrified me. But I resolved that I would sell my life dearly, and not relax the impending conflict until my own life, or that of my adversary, were extinguished. Elizabeth observed my agitation for some time in timid and fearful silence. At length she said, "What is it that agitates you, my dear Victor? What is it you fear?"
Oh, peace, peace, my love, replied I. This night, and all will be safe. But this night is dreadful, very dreadful. I passed an hour in this state of mind, when suddenly I reflected how dreadful the combat which I had momentarily expected would be to my wife, and I earnestly entreated her to retire, resolving not to join her until I had obtained some knowledge as to the situation of my enemy. She left me, and I continued some time walking up and down the passages of the house, and inspecting every corner that might afford a retreat to my adversary. But I discovered no trace of him, and was beginning to conjecture that some fortunate chance had intervened to prevent the execution of his menaces, when suddenly I heard a shrill and dreadful scream. It came from the room into which Elizabeth had retired. As I heard it, the whole truth rushed into my mind. My arms dropped. The motion of every muscle and fiber was suspended. I could feel the blood trickling in my veins and tingling in the extremities of my limbs. The state lasted but for an instant. The scream was repeated, and I rushed into the room.
Good God, why did I not then expire? Why am I here to relate the destruction of the best hope and the purest creature of earth? She was there, lifeless and inanimate, thrown across the bed, her head hanging down, and her pale, distorted features half covered by her hair. Everywhere I turn, I see the same figure. Her bloodless arms and relaxed form flung by the murderer of its bridal bier. How could I behold this and live? Alas, life is obstinate and clings closest where it is most hated. For a moment only did I lose recollection. I fainted.
When I recovered, I found myself surrounded by the people of the inn. Their countenances expressed a breathless terror, but the horror of others appeared only as a mockery, a shadow of the feelings that oppressed me. I escaped from them to the room where lay the body of Elizabeth, my love, my wife, so lately living, so dear, so worthy. She had been moved from the posture in which I had first beheld her, and now, as she lay, her head upon her arm, and a handkerchief thrown across her face and neck, I might have supposed her asleep. I rushed towards her, embraced her with ardor, but the deathly languor and coldness of the limbs told me that what I now held in my arms had ceased to be Elizabeth, whom I had loved and cherished. The murderous mark of the fiend's grasp was on her neck, and the breath had ceased to issue from her lips.
While I still hung over her in the agony of despair, I happened to look up. The windows of the room had before been darkened, and I felt a kind of panic on seeing the pale yellow light of the moon illuminate the chamber. The shutters had been thrown back, and, with a sensation of horror not to be described, I saw at the open window a figure that was hideous and abhorred. A grin was on the face of the monster. He seemed to jeer, as with his fiendish finger he pointed towards the corpse of my wife. I rushed towards the window, and drawing a pistol from my bosom, shot. But he eluded me, leaped from his station, and running with the swiftness of lightning, plunged into the lake.
The report of the pistol brought a crowd into the room. I pointed to the spot where he had disappeared, and we followed the track with boats. Nets were cast, but in vain. After passing several hours, we returned hopeless, most of my companions believing it to have been a form conjured by my fancy. After having landed, they proceeded to search the country, parties going in different directions among the woods and vines. I did not accompany them. I was exhausted. A film covered my eyes, my skin was parched with the heat of fever, and in this state I lay on a bed, hardly conscious of what had happened. My eyes wandered around the room, as if to seek something that I had lost.
At length I remembered that my father would anxiously expect the return of Elizabeth and myself, and that I must return alone. This reflection brought tears into my eyes, and I wept for a long time. But my thoughts rambled to various subjects, reflecting on my misfortunes and their cause. I was bewildered in a cloud of wonder and horror. The death of William, the execution of Justine, the murder of Clerval, and lastly of my wife. Even at that moment, I knew not that my only remaining friends were safe from the malignity of the fiend. My father, even now, might be writhing under his grasp, and Ernest might be dead at his feet. The idea made me shudder, and recalled me to action. I started up, and resolved to return to Geneva with all possible speed.
There were no horses to be procured, and I must return by the lake, but the wind was unfavorable, and the rain fell in torrents. However, it was hardly morning, and I might reasonably hope to arrive by night. I hired men to row, and took an oar myself, for I had always experienced relief from mental torment in bodily exercise. The overflowing misery I now felt, and the excess agitation I endured, rendered me incapable of any exertion. I threw down the oar, and leaning my head upon my hands, gave way to every gloomy idea that arose. I looked up. I saw the scenes which were familiar to me in my happier time, and which I had contemplated but a day before, in the company of her who was now a shadow and a recollection. Tears streamed from my eyes. The rain had ceased for a moment, and I saw the fish play in the waters as they had done a few hours before. They had then been observed by Elizabeth. Nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change. The sun might shine, or the clouds might lower, but nothing could appear to me as it had done the day before. A fiend had snatched from me every hope of future happiness. No creature had ever been so miserable as I was. So frightful an event is single in the history of man.
But why should I dwell upon the incidents that followed this last overwhelming event? Mine has been a tale of horrors. I have reached their acme, and what I must now relate can be tedious to you. Know that, one by one, my friends were snatched away. I was left desolate. My own strength is exhausted, and I must tell, in a few words, what remains of my hideous narration. I arrived at Geneva. My father and Ernest yet lived, but the former sunk under the tidings that I bore. I see him now, excellent and venerable old man. His eyes wandered in vacancy, for they had lost their charm and their delight. His niece, his more than daughter, whom he doted on with all that affection which a man feels who, in the decline of life, having few affections, clings more earnestly to those that remain. Cursed be the fiend that brought misery on his gray hairs, and doomed him to wasted wretchedness. How could he not live under the horrors that were accumulated around him? And apoplectic fit was brought on, and in a few days he died in my arm.
Damn. Just sadness.
Damn!
So, yeah.
Damn, that's sad! Oh shit!
Oh, shit.
I'm sad now. Alright. I feel like I've been getting, for some reason this session I feel like I'm on, like I'm not stumbling over the words, and I feel like that's kind of due to me having to be really critical of how I say things in like tutorials and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I always go back and I'm like, oh, I should enunciate that better. I need to re-record that line. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's been good practice for me inadvertently. So we're starting from what then became of me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
What then?
What then? What then? What
What
then
never?
became of me? I know not. It's Saturday Night Live. I lost sensation, and chains and darkness were the only objects that pressed upon me. Sometimes, indeed, I dreamt that I wandered into flowery meadows and pleasant vales with the friends of my youth, but awoke and found myself in a dungeon. Melancholy followed, but by degrees I gained a clear conception of my miseries and situation, and was then released from my prison. For they had called me mad, and during many months I understood. A solitary cell had been my habitation. Should I keep going?
Yeah, that's just 4 lines for me, and that's
Okay,
just barely
okay,
4
okay.
lines.
But liberty had been a useless gift to me. But liberty had been a useless gift to me had I not, as I awakened to reason, at the same time awakened to revenge. As the memory of past misfortunes pressed upon me, I began to reflect on their cause. The monster whom I had created, the miserable demon whom I had sent abroad into the world for my destruction. I was possessed by a maddening rage when I thought of him, and desired and ardently prayed that I might have him within my grasp to wreak a great and signal revenge on his cursed head. Okay, so stuff is moving really quick. Can we, like, go over this?
Yeah, so I was gonna say the same thing. So I figured that, when we started chapter 8 here, there was gonna be some time for him to, like, at least attempt to create the creature again. But it was just like, hey, we're here, and now your bride to be is dead.
Yeah. Bride is dead, goes back home.
How's his
Dad is dead
Dad
from
fucking
sadness.
dies.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
then
from the stress of the situation, right?
and
That's
then
not from the monster.
does he literally end up in an insane
prison,
asylum? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like it's all kind of elided, but maybe it's just because it's illustrating like how mad he actually went that like there's gaps missing in his memory.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there's that too, but also, I mean, like, I guess there were like some signs beforehand. I mean, like his father and like the people around him had seen and heard him talk about this creature before. So maybe it's just that it seems like it's progressed fast too, because it's just a reoccurrence of.
Do you think they like actually believed him? Do you think his dad actually believed him, or do you think he just died from like being so sad?
I think he died from being so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like, even if you believed him or not, it's like your daughter / niece is still dead.
Yeah. I mean, part of the madness is also like not being believed, right? That this is something that you did. So, yeah. Okay, wow, crazy. So, is he out of the cell, or is he still in confinement there? I don't know.
Let's keep reading.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
let's keep going.
Yeah, let's. Okay. Nor did my hate long confine itself to useless wishes. I began to reflect on the best means of securing him, and for this purpose, about a month after my release, so he just released, I repaired to a criminal judge in the town, and told him that I had an accusation to make, that I knew the destroyer of my family, and that I required him to exert his whole authority for the apprehension of the murderer. The magistrate listened to me with attention and kindness. "Assured, sir," said he, "no pains or exertions on my part shall be spared to discover the villain."
I thank you, I replied. Listen, therefore, to the deposition that I have to make. It is indeed a tale so strange that I should fear you would not credit it. For there not something in truth which, oh Jesus, were there not something in truth which, however wonderful, forces conviction? The story is too connected to be mistaken for a dream, and I have no motive for falsehood. My manner, as I thus addressed him, was impressive but calm. I had formed in my own heart a resolution to pursue my destroyer to death, and this purpose quieted my agony and provisionally reconciled me to life. I now related my history briefly, but with firmness and precision, marking the dates with accuracy and never deviating into invective or exclamation.
Boop, 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 boop.
Oh, that was a that was a paragraph.
Yeah, that was a big one.
One sentence was just like a ton of asides in one
Oh,
thing.
That one sentence had like 6 commas. 1, 2, 3,
and
4,
marking the
5.
dates with accuracy, mind you.
And marking the dates of accuracy.
just like had them ready. I mean,
He had the receipts.
yeah, I feel like writing in a journal was much more important back then, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it's something I should practice too. I've been told to keep a journal at work about what I'm like learning and what I'm thinking about, and I'm still like not good at keeping it, and I think I should get in the practice of it. But maybe some days just thoughts head empty, you know.
Mhm.
Not every day has to be, documented, contrary to social media. Anyways.
Mhm.
The magistrate appeared at first perfectly incredulous, but as I continued, he became more attentive and interested. I saw him sometimes shudder with horror, at others a lively surprise. Unmingled with disbelief was painted on his countenance. When I had concluded my narration, I said, "This is the being whom I accuse, and for whose detection and punishment I call upon you to exert your whole power. It is your duty as a magistrate, and I believe and hope that your feelings as a man will not revolt from the execution of those functions on this occasion."
I'm sorry, I just had to do the countenance count on my chat real quick because we got red
Oh
two.
yeah.
2 for countenance this evening.
Second one. Oh, the delivery was perfect. Painted on his
It was.
silent,
It was.
crystal clear, like he was in my ear. How
It was. There's a little thing in SpongeBob where like they say actors, and it's like it turns to like real lips for a second instead of just cartoon.
Yeah.
And so that's what I imagine in this case when you said countenance, just like that.
Well, listen, you gotta give it the ceremony it deserves, right?
You're right. It's countenance after all.
It's countenance.
Okay.
Countenance ASMR stream.
That's the tag we're missing.
Mm-hmm.
This address.
Yeah,
caused
the whole
considerable
fucking
change.
tag. Hashtag countenance ASMR stream.
Oh man. That's what we gotta do for the whatever the word is for the next book is they count or we'll figure out the word.
Yeah, we
Let's
gotta
read
figure out the
that
word that they
ASMR
use the
stream.
most.
Yep. Right. So this address caused a considerable change in the physiognomy.
Physiognomy.
Is it GIF or GIF?
Physiognomy.
It's both. Physiognomy. Physiognomy. Golly,
Physiognomy.
I'm gonna look it up. Dang it. I was doing so well.
I think it's physiognomy.
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 Physiognomy. The physiology of a
Physio-
gnome.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but I didn't know there were gnomes in this. I didn't know about these gnomes.
You don't know gnome?
Let me see. Pronunciation.
Physiognomy, I think.
Physiognomy. Physiognomy. Okay.
Oh, physiognomy?
Physiognomy.
No og.
Og. Just like no gnome, so physiognomy. Okay, so I'm gonna try that again.
Okay.
This address caused a considerable change in the physiognomy of my auditor. He had heard my story with that half kind of belief that is given to a tale of spirits and supernatural events. But when he was called upon to act officially in consequence, the whole tide of his incredulity returned. He, however, answered mildly, I would willingly afford you every aid in your pursuit, but the creature of whom you speak appears to have powers which would put all my exertions to defiance. Who can follow an animal which can traverse the sea of ice and inhabit caves and dens where no man would venture to intrude? Besides, some months have elapsed since the commission of his crimes. No one can conjecture to what place he has wandered or what region he may now inhabit.
I do not doubt that he hovers near the spot which I inhabit. And if he has indeed taken refuge in the Alps, he may be hunted like the chamois and destroyed as the beast of prey. But I perceive your thoughts. You do not credit my narrative and do not intend to pursue my enemy with the punishment which is his desert.
What's dessert?
Pretty sure it's desert because there's no double S. It's desert.
Oh, his desert.
As I spoke, rage sparkled in my eyes. The magistrate was intimidated. You are mistaken, he said. I will exert myself, and if it is in my power to seize the monster, be assured that he shall suffer punishment proportionate to his crimes. But I fear, from what you have yourself described to be his properties, that this will prove impractical, and that, while every proper measure is pursued, you should endeavor to make up your mind to disappointment.
Is it you? Or is it me that's messing up?
Ah, my mic was muted. Ah.
Oh, you're good, because my thing on my stream had like the bars in the red. So it was like, oh, okay, it's probably me.
No, it's me. Okay. Are going from that cannot be?
That
Yes.
cannot be. Yes.
Okay, that cannot be. But I was reading so good. That cannot be. But all that I can say will be of little avail. My revenge is of no moment to you, yet, while I allow it to be a vice, I confess that it is devouring, and only passion of my soul. My rage is unspeakable, when I reflect that the murderer, whom I have turned loose upon society, still exists. You refuse my just demand. I have but one resource, and I devote myself either in my life or death to his destruction. I trembled with the excess of agitation as I said this. There was a frenzy in my manner, and something, I do not doubt, of that haughty fierceness, which the martyrs of old are said to have possessed. But to a Genevan magistrate, whose mind was occupied by far other ideas than those of devotion and heroism, this elevation of mind had much the appearance of madness. He endeavored to soothe me as a nurse does a child, and reverted to my tale as the effects of delirium.
Man, I cried, how ignorant art thou in thy pride of wisdom. Cease, you know not what it is you say. I broke the house angry and disturbed, and retired to meditate on some other mode of action.
Continue into chapter 7, my friend. Or are we gonna discuss? Are we gonna... don't know.
I mean, I feel like we had a decent discussion of it earlier. I mean, unless you want to talk about like how the other guy didn't really believe him.
I was just one, yeah. He didn't believe him. There you go.
I mean, I didn't seem like you believed him, really, right?
He was like scared of what he was saying, but then he was like, "Nah, you crazy."
By the looks
You
of it, this is the
crazy.
last chapter.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just a really long chapter.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through it and I'm like, it doesn't say chapter whatever. It just says chapter 7, and it says at the end. So, all right, here we go.
Excellent. All right, Baljeet, continue on.
All right, sure. My present situation was one in which all voluntary thought was swallowed up and lost. I was hurried away by fury. Revenge alone endowed me with strength and composure. It modeled my feelings and allowed me to be calculating and calm at periods when otherwise delirium or death would have been my portion.
Is it me? Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
No, is it?
that's
oh,
fudge.
wait.
Fudge.
Yeah, it was a second.
Okay. I
Right.
didn't know.
My first resolution was to quit Geneva forever. Country, which, when I was happy and beloved, was dear to me. Now, my adversary became hateful. I provided myself with a sum of money, together with a few jewels which had belonged to my mother, and departed. And now my wanderings began, which are to cease but with life. I have traversed a vast portion of the earth and have endured all the hardships which travelers in the deserts and barbarous countries are wont to meet. How I have lived, I hardly know. Many times have I stretched my failing limbs upon the sandy plain and prayed for death. But revenge kept me alive. I dared not die and leave my adversary in being.
In being. When I quitted Geneva, my first labor was to gain some clue by which I might trace the steps of my fiendish enemy. But my plan was unsettled, and I wandered many hours around the confines of the town, uncertain what path I should pursue. As night approached, I found myself at the entrance of the cemetery where William, Elizabeth, and my father reposed. I entered it and approached the tomb which marked their graves. Everything was silent except the leaves of the trees, which were gently agitated by the wind. The night was nearly dark, and the scene would have been solemn and affecting even to an uninterested observer. The spirits of the departed seemed to flit around, and to cast a shadow which was felt but not seen, around the head of the mourner.
The deep grief which this scene had at first excited quickly gave way to rage and despair. They were dead, and I lived. Their murderer also lived, and to destroy him I must drag out my weary existence. I knelt on the grass and kissed the earth, and with quivering lips exclaimed, "By the sacred earth on which I kneel, by the shades that wander near me, by the deep and eternal grief that I feel, I swear, and by thee, O night, and by the spirits that preside over thee, I swear to pursue the demon who caused this misery until he or I shall perish in mortal conflict. For this purpose I will preserve my life. To execute this deed of revenge, will I again behold the sun and tread the green herbage of the earth, which otherwise should vanish from my eyes forever. And I call on you, spirits of the dead, and on you, wandering ministers of vengeance, to aid and conduct me in my work. Let the cursed and hellish monster drink deep of agony. Let him feel the despair that now torments me."
Ooh. Snaps for you.
Thanks.
Alright. I had begun my adjuration with solemnity, and an awe which almost assured me that the shades of my murdered friends heard and approved my devotion. But the furies possessed me as I concluded, and rage choked my utterance. I was answered through the stillness of a night by a loud and fiendish laugh, It rung on my ears long and heavily. The mountains re-echoed it, and I felt as if all hell surrounded me with mockery and laughter. Surely, in that moment, I should have been possessed by frenzy and have destroyed my miserable existence. But that my vow was heard, and that was reserved for vengeance. The laughter died away when a well-known and abhorred voice, apparently close to my ear, addressed me in an audible whisper. I, satisfied, miserable wretch. You have determined to live, and I am satisfied.
I darted towards the spot from which the sound proceeded, but the devil eluded my grasp. Suddenly the broad disk of the moon arose, and shone full upon his ghastly and distorted shape. As he fled with more than mortal speed, I pursued him, and for many months this has been my task. Guided by a slight clue, I followed the windings of the Rhone, but vainly. The blue Mediterranean appeared, and by a strange chance I saw the fiend enter by night, and hide himself in a vessel bound for the Black Sea. I took my passage in the same ship, but he escaped, I know not how. Amidst the wild of Tartary and Russia, although he still evaded me, I have ever followed in his track. Sometimes the peasants, scared by this horrid apparition, informed me of his path. Sometimes he himself, who feared that if I lost all trace I should despair and die, often left some mark to guide me. The snows descended on my head, and I saw the print of his huge step on the white plain. I'm gonna pause really quick. I want to know what this song is called. Okay. Where was I? To you,
Wait.
first entering on life. Oh, yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
To you, first entering on life, to whom care is new and agony unknown, how can you understand what I have felt and still feel? Cold, want, and fatigue were the least pains which I was destined to endure. I was cursed by some devil and carried about with me my eternal hell. Yet still a spirit of good followed and directed my steps, and when I most murmured, would suddenly extricate me from seemingly insurmountable difficulties. Sometimes, when nature, overcome by hunger, sunk under the exhaustion, a repast was prepared for me in the desert, that restored and inspirited me. The fare was indeed coarse, such as the peasants of the country ate. But I may not doubt that it was set there by the spirits that I had invoked to aid me. Often, when all was dry, the heavens cloudless, and I was parched by thirst, a slight cloud would bedim the sky, shed the few drops that revived me, and vanish.
I followed, when I could, the courses of the river, but the demon generally avoided these, as it was here that the population of the country chiefly collected. In other places human beings were seldom seen, and I generally subsisted on the wild animals that crossed my path. I had money, and gained the friendship of the villagers by distributing it, or by bringing with me some food that I had killed, which, after taking a small part, I always presented to those who had provided me with fire and utensils for cooking. My life as it passed thus was indeed hateful to me, and it was during sleep alone that I could taste joy. Oh, blessed sleep! Often when most miserable I sank to repose, and my dreams lulled me even to rapture. The spirits that guarded me had provided these moments, or rather hours of happiness, that I might retain strength to fulfill my pilgrimage. Deprived of this respite, I should have sunk under my hardships. In the day I was sustained and inspired by the hope of night, for in sleep I saw my friends, my wife, and my beloved country. And I saw the benevolent countenance. Countenance! That's 3. Hold up.
Countenance.
Put that in the chat in a second. Countenance of my father. Heard the silver tones of my Elizabeth's soft voice, and beheld Clerval enjoying health and youth. Often when we wearied, by a toilsome march, I persuaded myself that I was dreaming until night should come, and that I should then enjoy reality in the arms of my dearest friends. What agonizing fondness did I feel for them? How did I cling to their dear forms, as sometimes they haunted even my waking hours, and persuade myself that they still lived? At such moments, vengeance that burned within me died in my heart. I pursued my path towards the destruction of the demon, more as a task enjoined by heaven, as a mechanical impulse of some power of which I was unconscious, than as the ardent desire of my soul.
What his feelings, or whom I pursued, I cannot know. Sometimes, indeed, he left marks in writing on the barks of the trees, or cut in stone that guided me and instigated my fury. My reign is not yet over.
It's kind of
These
funny.
words.
I'm over here.
Yeah, over here. The
Look
stone says,
behind
"Fight
the
me,
street.
Scrub."
I'm with stupid. Sorry.
Fight me, Scrub.
Yeah.
Take the L.
Yeah, neener.
That was funny. Yeah, just like taunting him.
My reign is not yet over. These words were legible in one of the inscriptions. You live, and my power is complete. Follow me. I seek the everlasting ices of the north, where you will feel the misery of cold and frost, to which I am impassive. You will find near this place, if you follow not too tardily, a dead hare. Eat and be refreshed. Come on, my enemy. We have yet to wrestle for our lives, but many hard and miserable hours you must endure until that period shall arrive. Scoffing devil.
That's a long
What?
tree message, I gotta say.
I know, right?
It is.
Just imagine it just being scattered. You live, my power is complete. Next, a rock. Follow me. I seek the everlasting ices.
It's on a pine
It's like
tree
a
bark,
Looney
so it's just like
Tunes.
each piece is broken off.
It's like Looney Tunes, and I imagine like he's writing it with a feather pen. His strength is so great that he can just use a feather to do it.
Thank goodness he found these in the right order, because otherwise it would just make no sense.
I know.
You will find near this place we have yet to wrestle our lives. My reign is not over.
Eat a dead hare.
Read me.
dead
.txt.
Oh man. Alright. Scoffing devil. Again do I vow vengeance. Again do I devote the miserable fiend to torture and death. Never will I omit my search until he or I perish. And then, with what ecstasy shall I join my Elizabeth and those who even now prepare for me the reward of my tedious toil and horrible pilgrimage.
Alright. As I still pursued my journey to the northward, the snows thickened and the cold increased in a degree almost too severe to support, and the messages got longer and longer, and he peed them in the snow. The peasants were shut up in their hovels, and only a few of them, most hardy, ventured forth to seize the animals, whom starvation had forced from their hiding places to seek for prey. The rivers were covered with ice, and no fish could be procured, and thus I was cut off from my chief article of maintenance. The triumph of my enemy increased with the difficulty of my labors. See, look at this. One inscription in urine that he left was in these words: "Prepare your toils, only begin." Oh, prepare! Exclamation point. Your toils only begin. Wrap yourself in furs and provide food, for we shall soon enter upon a journey where your sufferings will satisfy my everlasting hatred. My courage and perseverance were invigorated by these scoffing words. Should I be reading this? Wait.
I think
I'll just I'll finish it.
Is it?
I'll finish it for you, Balchi. I resolved not to
Okay.
fail in my purpose, and calling on heaven to support me, I continued with unabated fervor to traverse immense deserts, until the ocean appeared at a distance and formed the utmost boundary of the horizon. Oh, how unlike it was the blue seas of the south. Covered with ice, it was only to be distinguished from land by its superior wildness and ruggedness. The Greeks wept for joy when they beheld the Mediterranean from the hills of Asia, and hailed with rapture the bounty of their toils. I did not weep, but I knelt down, and with a full heart thanked my guiding spirit for conducting me in safety to the place where I hoped, notwithstanding my adversary's gibe.
Because I feel like Gib
Jive?
would just be GIB, you know?
Yeah, and GIF is JIF.
Jive.
You're right.
Jibe to meet and grapple with him.
It's jive.
I mean, yeah.
It's a jive. An insulting or mocking remark. A ton.
So, what is... Okay, I was thinking about something else. I was thinking of glib or glibness.
Libby.
I am
Lizzie
the
Gobblers.
Golab, the double.
I am the glob glow glab glab.
Golab.
It's the hash singing, the trash singing. It's the glizzy cobbler. Alright, anyway. Some weeks before this period, I had procured a sled and dogs, and thus traversed the snows with inconceivable speed. I know not whether the fiend possessed the same advantages, but I found that as before I had daily lost ground in the pursuit. I now gained on him. So much so, that when I first saw the ocean, he was but 1 day's journey in advance, and I hoped to intercept him before he should reach the beach. With new courage, therefore, I pressed on, and in 2 days arrived at a wretched hamlet on the seashore. I inquired of the inhabitants concerning the fiend, and gained accurate information. A gigantic monster, they said, had arrived the night before, armed with a gun and many pistols, putting to flight the inhabitants of a solitary cottage through fear of his terrific appearance. He had carried off their store of winter food and placing it in a sledge, draw which he had seizure on a numerous drove of trained dogs. He had harnessed them, and the same night, to the joy of the horror-struck villagers, had pursued his journey across the sea in a direction that led to no land. And they conjectured that he must speedily be destroyed by the breaking of ice or frozen by the eternal frost. He's got a gun?
He does. He has a gun.
Like, look, if it wasn't bad enough already.
It's Frankenstein with guns. Gun edition.
Frank Gunstein.
Frank Gunstein. Ha ha ha. That's the new Doom clone.
Oh, God.
Like that.
Alright.
I'm after
It's-
Balchi.
it's
Why do I?
fudge.
Why do I? Oh, okay,
No?
wait.
You're not, because you're not.
Why do I get confused? That's right. I handed it off to Baljeet. Sorry, guys. It's gonna be a while till my brain acclimates to work. Like, I'm probably gonna need like a whole year. So, last stream of the year for my brain to acclimate. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
last stream of the year. This first stream. First
I
stream.
know. I know. I don't know. We'll see.
Don't say
My-
it's the last one.
This is
Too
this is
soon.
my
Too soon.
this is my brain on full-time job.
This is your brain on job.
Yeah.
This is your brain on.
All right.
This is your brain on the Book of Job.
Mhm. All right.
Oh.
On hearing this information, I suffered a temporary access of despair. He had escaped me, and I must commence a destructive and almost endless journey across the mountainous ices of the ocean, amidst cold that few of the inhabitants could long endure, and which I, the native of a genial and sunny climate, could not hope to survive. Yet, at the idea that the fiend should live and to be triumphed, my rage and vengeance returned, and, like a mighty tide, overwhelmed every other feeling. After a slight repose, during which the spirits of the dead hovered round and instigated me to toil and revenge, I prepared for my journey. I exchanged my land sled for one fashioned for the inequalities of the frozen ocean, and purchasing plentiful stock of provisions, I departed from land. Did you, Mitchell?
I exchanged my land sled for a man sled.
Was that Addison?
No, that's me.
That's you. Hey.
What's the word?
I cannot guess.
I cannot guess how many days have passed since then, but I have endured misery, which nothing but the eternal sentiment of a just retribution. The music paused perfectly for me to verify whether that was sentiment or not. But a just retribution burning within my heart could have enabled me to support. Immense and rugged mountains of ice often barred up my passage. That sounds sexy. And I often heard the thunder of the ground sea, which threatened my destruction. But again, the frost came and made the paths of the sea secure. Am I the only one who thought that statement was kinky? Immense and rugged mountains of ice often barred up my passage.
I don't know. You know, I didn't see it as that. I'm just trying to picture it, I guess.
I don't know.
Because it was a passage.
The frost came.
This is our best session yet. By the quantity of provision, yeah. My countenance, I don't know how to tie that into these barred passages of ice and rugged mountains. That's a good one. I'm gonna keep that one in my mind. By the quantity of provision which I had consumed, I should guess that I had passed 3 weeks in this journey, and the continual protraction, I almost said prostate.
Protractor.
And our protractor, yeah.
The continual prostate.
Listen, I'm just thinking about those immense and rugged mountains of ice that often barred up my passage, okay?
You know what? It makes sense now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Protraction of hope. Returning back upon the heart often wrung bitter drops of despondency and grief from my eyes. Despair had indeed almost secured her prey, and I should soon have sunk beneath this misery. When once, after the poor animals that carried me had with incredible toil gained the summit of a sloping ice mountain, and one sinking under his fatigue died, I viewed the expanse before me with anguish, when suddenly my eye caught a dark speck upon the dusky plain. I strained my sight to discover what it could be, and uttered a wild cry of ecstasy when I distinguished a sledge and the distorted proportions of a well-known form within. Oh, with what a burning gush did hope visit my heart! Warm tears filled my eyes, which I hastily wiped away, that they might not intercept the view I had of the demon. But still my sight was dimmed by the burning drops until, giving way to the emotions that oppressed me, I wept aloud.
But this was not the time for delay. I disencumbered the dogs of their dead companion, gave them a plentiful portion of food, and after an hour's rest, which was absolutely necessary, yet which was bitterly irksome to me, I continued my route. The sledge was still visible, nor did I again lose sight of it, except at the moments for when a short time some ice rock concealed it with its intervening crags. I indeed perceptibly gained on it, and when after nearly 2 days' journey, I beheld my enemy at no more than a mile distant. My heart bounded within me. But now, when I appeared almost within grasp of my enemy, my hopes were suddenly extinguished, and I lost all trace of him more utterly than I had ever done before. A ground sea was heard. The thunder of its progress, as the waters rolled and swelled beneath me, became every moment more ominous and terrific. I pressed on, but in vain. The wind arose, the sea roared, and as the mighty shock of an earthquake, it split and cracked with a tremendous and overwhelming sound. The work was soon finished. In a few minutes, a tumultuous sea rolled between me and my enemy, and I was left drifting on a scattered piece of ice that was continually lessening, and thus preparing me for a hideous death.
In this manner, many appalling hours passed. Several of my dogs died, and I myself was about to sink under the accumulation of distress when I saw your vessel riding at anchor and holding forth to me hopes of scarring life.
That was also kinky.
It's because he said anger.
Said vessel.
Vessel. I had no conception that vessels ever came so far north, and was astounded at the sight.
Ooh, I thought those bars of ice in the passage were something.
Oh man, that's a statement. That's a whole sentence. Dang.
Damn.
I quickly destroyed part of my sledge to construct oars, and by the means was enabled, with infinite fatigue, to move my ice raft in the direction of your ship. I had determined, if you were going southward, still to trust myself to the mercy of the seas.
Was it southward this time since you?
Know. It's just getting really phallic.
Rather than
these combinations of words are just it's poetry. It's really poetry. Yes. This is poetry. This is poetry. It makes me want to write poetry.
So rather than abandon my purpose, I hoped to induce you to grant me a boat with which I could still pursue my enemy. But your direction was northward. You took me on board when my vigor was exhausted. And I should soon have sunk under my multiplied hardships.
I'm trying to understand. Is it because the vigor was exhausted? Or is it because of the multiplied hardships?
I don't know. Continue.
That got me. Alright. Where am I? Multiplied hardships into a death which I still dread. For my task is unfulfilled.
I don't understand. But
I
okay.
can't-
Oh man.
Oh my god. Why? Oh man. This is your brain on full-time job. I don't know if we're gonna make it to the end.
Worldwide hardships.
Okay. Keep going with the phallic puns.
Oh man.
Wait, are we at the end? Are we wait, where
Oh no.
So
we saw
so
the,
this
the other
isn't
paragraph.
Sorry, you should
No,
probably
yeah.
go back because I don't know if it was any of that was audible from my hysterical laughter.
I mean, I could hear it. I think.
I think so, yeah. I didn't keep reading. I let you just do your thing.
Oh my god, that was insane. Just overtook me. I haven't laughed like that in a long time.
I'm gonna go ahead and finish it.
Okay.
If that's okay. Alright,
Yeah.
so
I think that
Oh.
one got Baljeet.
when will my guiding spirit, in conducting me to the daemon, allow me to rest? Allow me the rest I so much desire, or must I die and he yet live? If I do, swear to me, Walton, that he shall not escape, that you will seek him and satisfy my vengeance in his death. Yet, do I dare ask you to undertake my pilgrimage? To endure the hardships that I have undergone? No, I am not so selfish. Yet when I am dead, if he should appear, if the ministers of vengeance should conduct him to you, swear that he shall not live. Swear that he shall not triumph over my accumulated woes and live to make another such a wretch as I am. He is eloquent and persuasive, and once his words had even power over my heart. But trust him not. His soul is as hellish as his form, full of treachery and fiend-like malice. Hear him not. Call on the manes of William, Justine, Clerval, Elizabeth, my father, and of the wretched Victor, and thrust your sword into his heart. I will hover near and direct the steel aright.
Perfect. Wow. How phallic was that, man?
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Oh.
That's gonna be like a highlight for sure. Although I don't know if I was like peeking the mic.
That's okay. It's part of the process.
I think I tried to turn away at one point. I just couldn't control my laughter. Alright. I think I need water. Can we let's do a break?
Yeah, it's a little break.
I wish I could timestamp all of these easily, but I don't know if I don't think the stream markers are working still.
No.
No.
I'm gonna check in on updates and stuff. See if my
Okay.
switch broke from when I dropped it earlier. That means
Oh
too.
no!
My water.
All
But I
right.
don't think it's broken. I just want to check to make sure, you know.
Be right back, all.